Hello. Today I have a sunny orange ginger. I don't generally like orange, but I like ginger, so maybe it'll work. Smells good. Today I wanted to talk about kind of an embarrassing person that I wound up dating, and I sort of probably should have never dated him, but I was still in this mode of trying to figure out what I wanted and meet new people, right? And I was kind of viewing the whole new dating thing as an adventure. I wasn't taking it completely seriously, or like holding it too close. So I guess it's one of those situations where you live and you learn, especially when like I didn't ever date really before I met my ex-husband. So um this guy, at the time I didn't know about the term future faking, but this is a perfect example of what that looks like in real time. And I am a person who says what they mean and is very clear and direct in my communication. So I don't ever talk about something that might happen unless I 1,000,000,000% believe that it is happening. So I'm very clear with my language. So if I think something might be cool, I'll say, oh, it would be so fun if we could do this. And I know that a lot of people will talk about things in the future like they're happening, and that's like their daydreaming language. But for me, it took me a long time to understand that there's a difference between that. And I am so black and white about it that I wouldn't even talk about a future with somebody unless I was ready to start that future with them. And I think some people do it honestly and they don't try to manipulate, but I do 1,000,000% believe that some men do this intentionally to manipulate and try to get more from the female than they would normally get if they were just being honest. He made it seem like he was very well off and established, and we did get to the point where I went over to his, well, it wasn't his house, but he made me dinner and showed me family photos and kind of that whole part of getting to know each other. I did find out, because it seemed a little strange to live in the place that he was living, and like there wasn't a restroom in the place, and that kind of, my questioning of where we were actually at unraveled several things about him that I didn't know. But in that moment, he was telling me about his life and, about things that he wanted for himself. And he was showing me around, and I was just curious about it. So I was asking questions, and it turns out that wasn't where he lived. That was his family's vacation house, which is cool. I mean, that's fun. But he had told me he was bringing me, home to cook dinner. So it started me wondering why we're not going to his actual home and why we're going to his vacation house. And in that night, as I was questioning it, I started asking more direct questions, and he started getting uncomfortable. And as I look back on it now, I can see that he was trying to hide some things, and I'll tell you what those were in a minute. But in the moment, I was just swept up in this attractive man who's very charismatic is making me this beautiful dinner in this beautiful setting on this amazing lake, right? So I definitely got lost in the moment a little bit and swept off my feet to some degree, but he began talking about the future and how we could be spending a lot of time there in that vacation house, and at some point even bringing my kids up and just making it like a really fun family place. And he really went hard into that scenario, and he made it very clear with his future faking, as I now know it is, that he wanted a future with me and my children. And so I took that seriously and started kind of leaning into that a little bit and seeing what that might look like, and drew closer to him because of all of those words that he was saying. It took a little bit of time, but then I realized that everything that he was saying wasn't really matching up with reality. And as I started to ask more questions, he would give a little bit of pushback, and I I finally got tired of being in this like limbo area of not really knowing what was happening and not having any of my questions answered, and always just he was moving towards the future faking and talking about how great things will be in the future. And I was like, we need to be here in the present and talk about what's going on now, and I'm really confused about several things. Well, turns out, like I said, it wasn't his house, it was his vacation home, and he didn't just prefer to be there because it was nice. He had no choice to be there because he lived with his parents, and not in the sense of they're both contributing to a lifestyle or he's helping them or he's trying to save money to be able to buy up his own place. Nope, that wasn't his house. It was his parents' house. They never knew that he had been going there as much as he had been going there, with or without me. And his parents owned their own house, and he was basically crashing at his parents' house because he couldn't get his life together. And he had no plans of moving out because he enjoyed that his mom cooked and cleaned and did his laundry for him every day. So it was like a completely different scenario than what was going on. And then it got to the point where he had made all these like plans about different weekends and different things based on my availability. And it came up to one of those situations, and we were going to go somewhere, and I didn't know exactly what was going to be happening on that weekend that we were going to be away. So I asked some questions trying to figure out what to pack, and he never answered me. And at that point, I didn't really accept that somebody not answering was an answer in itself. Like, that realization hadn't dawned on me. I was still assuming that everybody would communicate respectfully. And nowadays, if I don't get an answer, I'm just like assuming that they've moved on and they're not interested or something came up or whatever. Like, it's on them to communicate with me if I have already stepped out, and I'm not going to continue to put myself out there repeatedly and just not get an answer. That's ridiculous. But he never answered me, and I got really upset, and I sent the stupid long text about, what's going on. And I think in the moment I was like trying to grasp onto the future that he kept talking about. But the reality of it was that inside I knew that it wasn't real, because so much of what was happening in reality didn't match what he was saying as he was speaking about the future. And I bring this up because, it's embarrassing. I think we've all done that. We've all gotten wrapped up in like what could be. And then that moment of realization of none of it's happening, none of it's real, is a hard pill to swallow. And I thankfully didn't spend too much time on it, but it was very jarring to realize that somebody could be so full on 1,000,000% like headed in one direction, and then because you ask a clarifying question or try to hold them accountable to have their actual behavior match what their words are saying, then they're just like, they're gone. He did reach out to me, and he basically was like, well, you're crazy. I never said any of that stuff. I never planned on a future with you, and tried to do that whole gaslighting nonsense. And thankfully at that point I was just like impervious to that side of the crap. But I called him on it, and I said, no, you did say that, and I made my decisions based on what your words were to me, and I don't think that that's respectful or kind, and I hope that you can grow from this and learn in the future. He probably never did, honestly. I at that point was like saying these things to get it off my chest and feel like I had done my part. But if somebody is in their 40s or 50s and even 30s, and they're still behaving like that, they're never going to change. So it's best to just not even waste your breath. It's best to just take their actions for the truth, and then make your decisions based on what they're actually doing. Their words really don't matter at all. And so you can just make your decisions based on what they do with their time and how they behave when they're around you, and like what they put in their life. That's what you can make your decisions on. The words are just a smokescreen, honestly, and if they don't match up, then that's not somebody that you need to spend your time with.